right. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope you're all doing great. Had an awesome week. Excited to be getting into this LinkedIn Live with my buddy, John Wijtenburg. John, Happy New Year, man. We're still in that month window. Good to be with you today.
Happy New Year. Thanks for having me, Adam.
Yeah, man. It's like, so look, we've known each other for a while, and I think the theme in general, what I'm starting out with is it's been a crazy year, all sorts of stuff we've had to be able to be resourceful with. And so I want to get into a little bit about what you've been doing to really step up, because there's just some exciting things that I'm really impressed with. But why don't you just start off and share a little bit about who's John Wijtenburg? Tell everybody who's listening.
Sure. So my name is John Wijtenburg. I was formerly known as the hotel guy, and still kind of hang on to that moniker, but I've branched out, so I don't want to limit myself too much to hotels. Working on some industrial stuff and retail, but I started out in business about a little over a decade ago. Started out as an economist at Fannie Mae at the last downturn. We were cleaning up the mortgage mess, and I was working on the Treasury program there. And then I decided around that time that I wanted to get more into commercial real estate. Fannie Mae was starting to build out their multifamily book, which was a very tiny part of their business at the time. And Freddie Mac was actually ahead of Fannie at the time. And so I looked around, see if I could get into that world, but it wasn't fully developed yet. And I also wanted to move back to Florida from DC. And so, I did what anybody else would do that ends up being in this real estate business. And I decided to call everybody in the industry and cold call as many people as I can. And I ended up becoming an apartment broker in South Florida here with Marcus and Millichap. Great education. And from there, I jumped into an acquisitions role with a regional developer down here, and took various paths along the way. I went into asset management. I went deeper into underwriting. I went into capital markets and capital formation, and it was just a really great experience. And then in the past year, the hotel industry kind of blew up. COVID was a huge hit on hospitality, retail hospitality. In general, and hotels, and specifically the hotel segment that I was focused on, which is full service hotels, were particularly hard hit. And so I decided that I wanted to do something that I've been planning to do for a long time, and write a book and build an educational platform, and really fill out my consulting practice. And so I wrote my book, published that in November, and then I got the consulting platform off the ground, and just general real estate strategy over the past few months.
Awesome, man. We're going to highlight the book. I'm gonna do a little bit of a segment. I want you to share a little bit about, because I think that's such an undertaking to take on. That's like a bucket list item for a lot of us to get that book out there. So let's back up a little bit further though, because when I first met you, I was like really intrigued that you had this initial start, DC politics, in the House. I'd love to hear how that came about first. Maybe just do a little bit of segment on, and then how that could maybe be impacting some of what you're doing in real estate, whether it be from communicating a message, how you were able to build a network. I'm sure there's a lot of really interesting things that you found were now very valuable when you kind of connect the dots in hindsight that help you to this day. So yeah, maybe just a quick bit on how that got started.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't realize it then, but I was applying so many of the tools and skills and techniques that I use today, and that everybody in the industry uses. When I decided that I wanted to move to DC, it was right after the 2006 election. The Democrats had just taken the House, and actually they've taken all of Congress, I think. And I thought, this is such an exciting time. We have a divided government. There's a lot that we can do, find common ground. So I decided, hey, let's go to DC. At the time, I was working on a master's in statistics here at FIU. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to go switch to, back to economics. And so I went and started a PhD in economics at American University, with the intention that I'd work on that PhD as well as on the Hill. So to get into Congress, you can get in a number of ways. the way that I approached it is I basically found everybody that I could that is somewhat marginally attached to someone in Congress. I found various listservs, email lists where there would be position openings that were advertised, and I just blanketed cold call and met as many people as I can. Eventually, I got an internship with a freshman Democrat from Arizona, Harry Mitchell, terrific guy, Tempe mayor for 30 years or something. He was the state senator, head of the Arizona Democratic Party. It was a great experience to be with a guy that has so much political experience, but is also so down to earth. And we were working on an issue portfolio that was very aligned with his district, which was focused on veterans affairs, focused on the economy and tax cuts and very fiscally conservative approach, but a socially progressive perspective. So I felt good in that place. One of the things that I was so proud to work on while I was there was the new GI Bill. It was a post 9/11 GI Bill. So it was a $60 billion entitlement. We had tremendous support across the aisle. And we still always had that, a tough time to break through and get that deal passed. And so eventually what we did was the same way that we passed this previous coronavirus stimulus package. We attached it to a spending bill, to an omnibus spending bill, which, as far as policy is concerned and procedure, it's not the best way to pass legislation, but we got it done, and that's been just a tremendous benefit for people who stepped up to serve before and after 9/11. Even if you are not on the front lines, I always thought the potential that you could be called up just is such a tremendous sacrifice that you deserve to get that educational benefit. And I think we did a great job there. I left the Hill because I was wanted to focus more on my academics.
Sure.
So I finished my master's, didn't pursue the PhD any further, and then got right into the workforce.
Man, it's just interesting when you have that unique background that's coming from like a really different industry. And then I find that there's just kind of silver linings in that ability to then leverage it. And so I was just hearing a couple of things in what you shared. One, I just threw out the bat, which is so critical these days, is how do you go about even building that list of the people to connect with to then create the opportunity? So even just the fact that you were doing that right from the get, a lot of people don't realize that that's so critical. I mean, your network unlocks all the opportunities. And so the fact that you knew, hey, this is, I need to take this on intentionally. I need to go after the right people. Where do I even go to begin with that? And then be able to add value to them. So it's a really neat thing to hear that you had that experience. And then I think you could see how in real estate, that's so critical, whether it is identifying opportunities, assembling the team. I mean, nothing gets done on your own. So it's interesting to hear that you already were doing that from the start. And I know even just because I had picked up your book, it sounds like you had that entrepreneurial spirit even from like a kid. So I imagine a lot of those sales and, kind of like that just business opportunity mindset was already there, which probably had hey, there's a way that I could go about approaching this to be able to achieve a goal. So very cool to hear that.
Well, and that's it. I think a lot of people have an idea about what they want to do, and it's general, kind of like floating around. They have a decent concept of who they want to be and what they want to do. And I think a lot of it has, a lot of success comes down to reducing that into something that's actionable.
Sure.
So once you make that decision, then you just go and find the resources you need to make it happen. And I think I forgot who it says, but who says this, but it's more important to be resourceful than to be extroverted or anything else. It doesn't.
Sounds like maybe a Jim Rohn, I think.
Yeah, I mean, being resourceful is it's critical, and especially in the business that we're in, to find the right people. I I found you through a friend, Justin,
Sure.
and it was at the time where I wanted to become, a bigger personality on LinkedIn and on social media, and we connected, and then you connected me to others in the industry who were doing something similar, and it's all about taking your vision and then finding the people who will help get you there.
So true. I mean, I find that it was one of those ahas years ago, but it definitely changed the mindset from thinking that you have to have all the skills and all the education. And it was really more of anything is possible through a network. And typically you're 2 degrees away from anything you want in your life. And that idea that probably 2 degrees. So you have your existing network 1 degree, but then through all your network of direct connections, probably almost anything you are looking for is available. And I like that mindset in general, that if you're really great with being able to, you're friendly, you're resourceful, you're always thinking from a giving mindset, adding value, you typically could do very well with just coming from that network mindset and achieving whatever you want, whether it be growing a presence online, writing a book, you name it. And so that really got instilled with me. And I find that anytime that I'm getting a little too in my head about just not figuring it out, it's like, who should I be speaking with? And I'm kind of thinking more from that standpoint. So yeah,
well,
I agree with that.
It's funny you say that. There's 2 things I do when I feel stuck in my career or in the day or whatever it is. So one is I'll make a list. I'll just I'll just dump everything from my head onto a list. So that's one thing. The other thing I'll do is I'll put everything to the side and just start making phone calls. I'll just start calling people, because eventually I'll find the thing that's really that's plugging my progress, that's getting in the way. I'll find the person who will really unlock it for me.
So funny. So I told you there's some questions I like to do at the end of the segment. One of them is, what do you do when you're stuck?
Okay.
So it's actually perfect timing. We'll just get into it right now. I think that's such a I mean, we all get stuck at some point. And so I really like that as a specific question to hear. What do people do that have achieved success when they're stuck? Because invariably there's going to be times when that's going to happen. So I really find it interesting to hear different strategies that people do when that does inevitably happen. So it's interesting. Tell me a little bit more about it. Like, so what does that look like a little bit more? So, you start writing things down. So you get it out of your head and onto some kind of document, I guess either physical or maybe on a online document, right?
So there's a book. Let me see. I have my bookcase here. There's a book that I really love. Here. So it's called Getting Things Done.
I love David Allen. Awesome. Incredible.
Terrific program, terrific system for organizing your thoughts. So Getting Things Done is so great because you have a technique for putting all of your basically dumping your brain onto lists. You use inboxes, and then you work to clear your inboxes. And then you assign projects and that kind of thing. So that's one of my big go-tos, is I'll work through that system. And usually when I'm stuck and when I'm not, feeling like I'm making progress, it's usually because I'm backlogged on my inbox. So I go through there. Sometimes I'll pick the low-hanging fruit to be able to, just feel some success and get
a win,
get some momentum. And then I'll quickly switch to a heavier task. One of the things that I do that I think is so important for anybody in any business is I plan my day to the 15 minutes. And I put a LinkedIn post about this a couple weeks ago, and actually got a lot of traction on that, because I think people were in the mindset of, how do I make progress and achieve my goals this year. But I think, one thing that I love about, making that schedule, it's not so much, it's like, I think it was Eisenhower said, having a plan is worthless once you're in battle, but the act of planning is essential.
Sure.
Because you put yourself in a mindset that there's always something to do. If you have a 15-minute block or a 20-minute block where you've just finished something, or you're in between, but you can have, some time for something else, or you need to fill your mind with something else, you can quickly take something off the shelf, get that out of the way, and then move on. The other thing I like to do is to get into flow states. So I block out the really important work that I need to do in the morning. I allocate 90 minutes to do it, and then just run through that. So those are two things there. But yeah, I mean, just dumping out onto the paper, going through the GTD system is has helped me so many times in so many ways. And then as far as making phone calls, it's usually attached to something that's on my list. So
Sure,
I'll
I get
go,
that.
let's say that I'm raising capital for a deal, and we're early stage, so you already have your list of people to be calling, and so you go through those calls. But if you're in the later stage, and things maybe aren't moving the way that you want them to, or there's like some stuckness there that you've gotten some feedback from the market, but you just need a little bit more from somebody else. I'll just go to a bunch of lenders or equity, depending on which side I'm raising the capital, and I'll have somebody just go through the deal. Just run through the deal with them. Like I think I called you on one. C-Pace wasn't the right fit,
Right.
but just going through and having the conversation. This is a deal that I'm working on. These are the challenges that I'm having. What do you think? What are you seeing in the market right now?
It's the best thing to do sometimes, just to get someone's
Yeah.
perspective on how are they looking at it. I love that. I always recommend that, if you have a deal and you have some lenders you trust and maybe some equity sources, bounce it off them and hear what's coming up. They might say things like, oh yeah, of course I need to address this. Like maybe it was a challenge that for some reason you just, glossed over, but I love that approach. So I'm a fan of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
good stuff.
it works on everything. Even if
Yeah.
you're in more of the operational role, call somebody who's, in a hotel business, for instance. If you're having a challenge with, HR, call someone who's in revenue management and have them, kind of talk the idea through with you, because everybody, it's funny, everybody has a diversity of experience and a diversity of thought and opinion that is helpful beyond what you see on the surface. And
So
if
true.
you just kind of dig in a little bit more, you really get to know people, and you get to know where they can help you in different ways.
Dude, I mean, I feel like we talk about these topics forever. I mean, so I'll add one thing to that. I think this is an approach in general to just life. And I think some people, because I feel like I might have been in this camp years ago. And if I were to say what it was, it would probably be more in the world of, I didn't want to look like I didn't have it together. There was something around that might have had me not reach out in some cases where it would have been the perfect thing to do. And this was maybe back in my 20s where that was a real concern, like the looking good conversation. You don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to look like the kid, but that, if anything, is the best thing to do. And I've now since seen how great that is, even at the very minimal, to build rapport. But there's such a nice relationship that comes with it when you do have that ability to say, hey, look, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to share a little bit about what I'm up to. And it almost always does something to move things forward, whether it be you build a relationship or you get some insight. It's such a great fundamental thing that you're talking about right now as a way to be able to achieve success. And you bring in community when you do that. So I love that theme in general. I think a lot of people, there's a stop, and it's a mindset stop around some kind of concern. I don't want to share information, or I don't know if I want to look like I don't have it together, whatever it is, but it's something it's a self-imposed limitation. And so I love that you're talking about that it's such an amazing thing. If you could remove that barrier, there's so many possibilities when you reach out to somebody and have those conversations. So I love it.
Well,
I agree 100%.
And it goes to this thing, you are not who you think you are. You're
Yep.
not who they think you are. You are who you think they think you are.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And so
did you see that from Jason Silva? Did you see there was so there's a buddy of mine who's good friends with Jason's, like a really interesting kind of spiritual thought leader. And I remember seeing that, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who others think I am. I am who I think others think I am.
Right.
And just when you really, and it's like one of those things where even saying it, you're like, but when you think it, it's like who I am and who I show up as is kind of how I believe others listen to me as.
Right.
Well, you get to shape that. I mean, that's kind of in your head. It's not necessarily always as accurate as you think, whether they think that or you think they think that. What matters in how you're being is what you think they think of you.
Right.
It's interesting.
Right. Well, and that's what, you do a great job of branding. Branding is what others think of you. marketing is what you think of yourself.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
and so
Yeah.
it's so critical. We want to own and control everything, but at a certain point you have to let go. You know, the
Yeah.
market will determine what it is, you know, what you are, and how how you're perceived. You just
Yeah.
have to put your best foot forward every single time you go out and interact with the market. That's it.
No doubt. Let's talk about a topic that I think, I mean, look, this is why I think I connect with you so much, is I love your mindset towards how you approach life in general. You're typically thinking, how do I just make things work for me no matter what's coming my way? And so let's talk about it. We've been now, I think I just saw it was like a year since the first COVID case, right? So we're a year in this crazy pandemic. And that's life, right? Like sometimes life
Right.
looks the way you want, sometimes it doesn't. And what I love is, and what I try to just have more of these conversations, because I want to feed that mindset, which is what could I do in spite of it, rather than, there's only nothing I could do. And so I love what you did. And this was one of the reasons I also wanted to bring you on. So I'm going to pop this up. Let's see if I have a command of this technology here. Give me 1 second. And there we go. All right, there we go. Tech, man. So look, I love the fact that you, in a pandemic, and I knew this was in your head, and I want you to be able to share a little bit more about the mindset with this, but you launched a book, man. I mean, you put a book together in the pandemic, and you're obviously trying to deal with everything else. I mean, let's not forget the fact that at the core, you're a family man. You got 2 sons. You got you got a lot of other stuff going on, and then add to it, you write a book. Okay.
Right.
So
Right.
tell me a little bit about that. And I know some of the story, the personal story, to the extent you could share a little bit about, there's a really powerful why and the dedication, but maybe you could share a little bit about, how this came about. And in the face of a lot of challenges, you made this happen when it was kind of sitting there on your mind for, it sounds like, a few years.
Yeah. So, I've always loved writing. When I was in college, I wrote a book called Graduate Rich. It was, very much like a virgin writing about sex. I wasn't rich in college, and I hadn't done anything spectacular, but it was a good experience to go through the self-publishing process. And then I put it on the shelf. I put that whole writing thing on the shelf for a good while. Probably about 15 years. And then I picked back up in 2018. I went to become a broker selling hotels.
Yeah.
And I wanted to define myself and, create a platform where people could find me and would understand the way that I think, and, would be a lead generation system. And so I started a website called Hotel Investor Toolbox.
Yep.
And I used it mostly for lead gen. I sold a couple models through there, but otherwise it was very much just a lot of blog content. I would write 3,000 words a week. Post weekly. So that's still out there. And all along the way, I was thinking, I really I want to write a book that's easy for people to consume. Easy for them to just read in a week. And I want to make this a series. I want to have different topics covered over time. And so I came up with CRE in a week. The first book that I wrote is CRE Investing Fundamentals. And
let me just pop it back up just 1 second. Let me just get it here. And I'll talk about branding too. I really like what you did with that as well. I like the CRE Investing in a week. I think that's a nice top of mind thing too. It's a simplified message that somebody wants, because sometimes they overcomplicate real estate investing. And I like your approach to really make it occur easier and simpler, which is good. I think it gives people more.
It's dense. It's dense. There's a lot of information there, but you can
Totally.
get through it in a week. You read 1 chapter a day. You do it. I mean, and their chapters are short. They're like 10 pages. 12 pages, something like that.
So what was this process like for you? Tell me a little bit about this. So you had this in your mind. You thought, hey, there's an opportunity for me to stand out. And what would you call it? It was the idea, because I think there's a correlation to being able to take ideas and put them into a book, simplify a message that's challenging and complicated. Investing in real estate, it is very daunting to a lot of people. So I think that correlates to that person that people might look to as a resource to say, hey, I could learn from this person and then continue following them. But tell me a little bit about how that, how that came about into that book, what the whole process was like. So,
Yeah, so this, you had mentioned the dedication. This is something that I've been wanting to do for many, many years. And then in April, my mother passed away. She was sick for a long time, and
Yep.
then all the lockdowns happened, and pretty much the hospital shut down. And
Oh, wow.
we can go into all kinds of things, but I believe she could have had better care
Yep.
had the doctors been focused on anything other than COVID. But
Sure.
that's beside the point. She was just a devotee of education.
Yeah.
She got her PhD very late in life, and was really motivated towards helping empower people who didn't have the resources that many of us have to come up, lift themselves from the bootstraps through education. And so that's what this is really dedicated to. And so when I
I totally
started
get it.
this,
How you wrote it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and when I started this back in, I'd been, collecting notes and ideas for a while, and then in April, May, when we were locked down, and I was, in my home office and back to work, I started to really put pen to paper, and I committed to writing. I think it was 1,000 words a day or something like that. And so it was very early mornings, sitting there on my phone, just typing away.
Yeah.
Um, and then eventually I got to the point, it was at the end of August, and I had written something like 55,000 words or 60,000
Wow.
words.
Amazing.
And, it was like, okay, now it's time. I have to compile this. I have to like edit it and make it something. And I set a deadline for, I think, the end of September to get it done. And I didn't make much progress. And then October came, and then I was halfway through October, and I said, you know what? I just need to put a flag in the ground. And I just said, I'm going to launch this book on November 17th. And I told people who would, be
Create
interested to
accountability.
buy it.
Yep.
And so I put that flag in the ground, and I said, okay, whatever has to happen, come hell or high water, this thing is launching on the 17th of November, and it just has to go. And so I created a logo, branding, everything within about 30 days. And it probably could have come together better if I had planned it out better, but I didn't want to let the year go on without getting this book out. And so it was really, again, back to being resourceful. I just found everybody in my network that could help me do it. I had terrific
Yeah.
people helping me edit and revise. I used Fiverr for a lot of the design. And then I put it up on the KDP, the Amazon self-publishing platform. And it was simple. Looking back, it was a struggle and it was hard. But at the time, it just seemed so simple and easy because it was something I'm so committed to.
Sure. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm hearing three themes in that. One is the why was so powerful. I mean, it's very obvious you're carrying on your mom's legacy, and you're really helping people and empowering them, frankly, to be able to get to another level in life through learning about this area that, frankly, is really, I think you said in the book, it's just not accessible. It's not really something that shows up for people to learn how to invest in commercial real estate. It's kind of like what's in front of you is, put your money in some stocks, or, you get,
Right.
talk from everybody saying, hey, invest with me. And so it's something a lot of people don't have that experience unless you somehow have a family member that started in the business or you had a friend. So I love that you really are doing that clearly. That's a powerful why that I could see would move you to make it happen. And then it was interesting to hear you share that the 1,000 words a day, like that's a very specific action that you could control and to stick with that. And next thing you know, you're 55,000 words 8 months later. I love that. I think that's such an
Yeah.
important thing, that just that consistency over time leads to extraordinary things. And then again, just, bringing in people. Fiverr. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of resources that, I mean, I find that with even stuff like, editing, a lot of times people like on LinkedIn, they get all caught up in putting out content. It's like, you don't need to bog yourself down with it. You could be outsourcing some of this stuff. So if your strength is, which I get, you're a good writer, maybe you could bring somebody in for some of the, touching up or this or that, or maybe framing the cover or whatever it is that you did, because you're not going to be doing the graphic design. So I
Right.
love it. I think it's a really nice outline, and talk more about that in the future. Thanks for sharing that, man. It's really, really good stuff.
Yeah,
And I
of
think it's
course.
awesome you have that now as a resource for people to be able to get access to. So
Yeah. Well, and
great.
there are some people, some resources out there that are making commercial real estate investing more accessible, but you think of something like Bigger Pockets, for instance. Bigger
Sure.
Pockets is a
Amazing.
tremendous
Yeah,
resource, right? Just I think
totally.
everybody who's in the industry has looked at it or, brushed by it. But it kind of stops once you get to like, maybe 20, 30 unit multifamily, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
there's a smattering of people in there who do some retail deals or what have you, but otherwise you don't have that institutional perspective. You never really learn about how to put together a joint venture or who the GP is and what that means.
100% agree. I think there's an opportunity to really expand from what a great foundation they started. And we should do something on Clubhouse. It's such a great platform to do this kind of a setting. And you can also bring people in a lot more seamlessly to be able to ask questions. So let's put that on the agenda for a goal we'll do in the next couple of weeks. So
You
let's
got
do
it,
this,
man.
man. This has been awesome. I want to jump to like the final segment and have a few questions. I really like the opportunity to bring on guys like you that you consume so much, you really have just so much insight and try to benefit from it. So let's go through a few questions that I like to get some sense of. We'll start with some basics. First one is, John, what's been the best purchase of 2020 for you that's made the biggest impact of your life? Talk to me. Could be basic, could be $20, $50 purchase. What do you like look back at last year and say, man, that was a great thing that I got? It could be something you got for the family, made your life easier. What's something that comes
Yeah.
to mind?
The best thing that I probably bought, I don't buy a lot of stuff, but I love the AirPods Pro.
Ooh, there
I
we
mean,
go. As
I
you're wearing them.
just, yeah, I'm wearing them. So
I know,
this
man.
is this is so critical because the only way that I take calls is walking
Yeah.
around. I
Oh,
can't sit down and take a call. I just can't. I think it was from when I was a broker. I just had my headset and just like walked
totally.
around and
Yep.
crank through
Yep.
calls. So it's just the best thing I could ever have.
AirPods Pro is such a game changer. And I actually think it's even better than the original because there's just neat features from the noise cancellation. I like that it's a little bit more secure, but that for me too is one of those things where I was like, wow, this is just, and I listen to a lot of stuff too. I know you do, whether it be a podcast in my ear that I have just one of them on, I can still pay attention to what's going on in the house. I could be on the
Right.
go. Love it, man. So I like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people should think about that. So I'm sure we have
Yeah.
similar ways of handling that. Awesome. All right. What about, besides your book, of course, what's been one of the most influential books in your life that's really made such an impact? Let's go through like top 2 or 3 that it could be in recent year, it could be in general, but what's one that really stands out for you that made a major impact on your life?
So I'll give you a personal book that affected me personally is Siddhartha by Herman Hesse.
Amazing.
Just
My aunt got me that years ago. Huge.
phenomenal
Yeah.
story.
Oh, I love that.
One thing that sticks out to me there is once you get rid of everything, you get everything, and then once you have everything, you want to get rid of it again. So I love that book. I can read that book, at least twice a year. It's just so good. That's
Such a
for me
great one.
personally, just, in terms of, just healing my soul.
Yeah.
Another one that stands out for me. Let me see. I don't know. Yeah, this one, Rebirth by Kamal Ravikant.
Okay. I never read that.
So good.
Yeah.
His brother's Naval Ravikant, obviously from Angel List. Just terrific story of self-discovery and going down a path when you're broken and rediscovering yourself.
I'm going to check
That's
that out because I just had a friend mention Naval, and I didn't know the guy, but I know about the list, and it sounds like just ridiculously successful. And so
yeah.
I was listening to this interview that she had done with him, and I said, I want to find out more about this guy. So this is perfect. I like that. I'm gonna check that one out. So
Yeah.
very cool.
So
Awesome, man.
and then as far as business books, I could give you a list to Kingdom Come.
What's top of the list?
One that I'm reading now. I'm reading Thinking in Systems.
Okay.
So that's good. Systems thinking is so critical, especially if you're in any kind of operational business. Stock and flow models, that kind of thing. We
What's the
talk
best
about.
systems book?
I like this one. It's very simple and very approachable, and it's written by a woman who, she's passed away, but she was a very involved with the MIT Design Lab. So just terrific and easy to consume book. Awesome. Some others, I love Repeatability.
Okay.
That's a good one. I love Measure What Matters. That's great. Let me see what else. Yeah, I got a bunch.
I remember I read this one a little while back. It was I don't know how much it got out there, but a lot of people I know that had done some cool things with businesses recommended Work the System. Something about this one, it was just so fascinating how this guy just broke down his business when he was at his wit's end. And I said, wow, it really could be broken down step by step sequentially. But I'm into that. Oh, yeah. I think systems thinking is just it's a game changer when you can start to do that. Instead of having it feel like it's all at once, it's like, wow, everything really could become start, middle, end, and you could really engineer it in a way where there's this this real nice flow to it, where there's steps breaking it down.
There's another one that's very particularly focused on business like that. It's called Built to Sell.
Yeah,
that one's it's a little bit of a different,
right? Jim Collins, right?
No, Built to Sell. That's Built to Last. Built to Sell.
I got you. Okay.
Built to Sell is John Warrillow.
That's awesome. I think I heard of that one as well, and I heard a lot of people said that was a real game changer for them. So cool, man. And those are some good.
It's easy to consume. It's a story. It's not like an instruction manual. And then I think for you, Adam, I think this one you got to get, and I'm happy to just send it over to you. But it's called Over Deliver. It's written by a guy who is who's a master in direct response marketing, but all of the things in here apply to even your business and social media and everything. I mean, it's all
awesome,
about it's all about how to frame a message and attract people and collect leads and that kind of thing.
Love it. Yeah. Cool. All right, moving on. What is your favorite app that has been a major impact in your life?
So Google Keep is essential.
Yeah, I don't use that.
So it's essentially like Evernote,
okay,
or OneNote or whatever.
I use OneNote. You use it in a similar way?
Similar to OneNote. And so I've set it up with my GTD system.
Yeah.
And every time something pops in my head, I take out Google Keep, put it in my inbox, and then I can process it later.
Interesting. Might have to follow up with you on that, see if that might be a little bit more of a system than the OneNote. I've been doing OneNote pretty consistently for a couple of years, but I'd be curious if there's a way to capture better. Very cool. Awesome. Yeah, all right. Maybe. I know you're big on habits. We're going to do these last two questions and wrap up. I like thinking in terms of, I forgot who said it, but it's like sow an action, reap a habit, sow a habit, reap a character, sow a character, reap a destiny. And so I think your habits are so big. What's a habit for you that over the last several years that you've either ditched because it was just destructive, or one that you've adopted and it really has moved you to the next level? Some kind of habit that comes to mind.
Ooh, so habits, I hate to say it because it's so cliche. My morning routine is essential. I mean, everybody talks about the morning routine, but so my morning routine consists of, regular wake up, sanitizing, all that good stuff.
When do you wake up?
Usually somewhere around 5:30. And I'll immediately jump into either writing or something creative, just to kind of dump my brain from the night. Sure. And then my kids wake up somewhere around like 6 o'clock, and then I'm pretty much dad for the next 2 hours.
Right, 6 to 8.
Yeah, and then as soon as I get to work, I do about 10 minutes of meditation, and then I write my journal for a little bit and have.
What do you do for meditating? Is there any particular style, or what do you like?
So it depends. If I really need to unload a lot of stress, I'll just sit there for an hour and just close my eyes for a whole hour, and just let my mind flow. But for a daily maintenance meditation, I usually do a mantra meditation.
Sure. Like a TM style.
Yeah, and so I just sit there and I focus. I do some box breathing to start, and then I do my mantra meditation. And I find as soon as I park my car at work, that's the best time to do it, because you don't have any distractions at that point.
Awesome. Great stuff, man. And then let's just finalize it with, what is your word for 2021?
Organize.
Awesome.
Organize. Yeah.
Organize. Good stuff, man. Bro, this is a pleasure, man. Nice to be able to catch up
Likewise.
with you and do like a nice chat, get updated with what's going on in your life. Really love it, man. I wish you the most success, and I look forward
Thank
to
you.
chatting with you soon. I have a feeling we will be. And all my best, man. All my best to you.
Thank you. No, thank you for inviting me. This was terrific. I appreciate it.
Awesome, John. Talk to you soon, bud.
All right. Thanks, Adam.